Hi, this is Karen with Karen's Cards and More, ready for our Monday night Facebook Live. For the month of July, we are featuring the Pansy Patch stamp set along with the Pansy dies, the coordinating dies. So all of our projects this month are going to feature this set. We have 2 regular cards and 1 fun fold card that we're going to be doing this month. So be sure and join me Monday nights at 7 o'clock here on the Facebook page to craft along with me. If you have this set and you want to make the card along with me, this would be a great opportunity. If not, I hope you catch it on YouTube. You can catch the replay. I'll be posting it there. So this is what we're going to be using. And this is the card that we're going to do tonight. I wanted to feature the stamping instead of the die cuts tonight. Then next week we'll use the die cuts. But this, we're going to feature the stamping, and there's quite a bit of stamping tonight. So let's get right to it. And I'm going to start with a piece of this is one of the new in colors for this year. This is Fresh Freesia, and it is 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. And then you'll need a piece of black that is 5 1/4 by 4. And then with that, you'll need a piece of the basic white that is 5 1/8 by 3 7/8. And then you'll need some scraps of white and black, and you'll need to use the everyday label punch, which is this one here, and you'll need to punch 1 white and 1 black. Okay, so that's what we're going to do, and let's just go ahead and then we're going to use a few gems and we'll put those on the end. Let's go ahead and do our stamping on this tag. Now you could stamp it on a larger piece of white and then use your punch to make sure you can definitely get it straighter. In case you stamped crooked on the piece, then you can always straighten it as you punch it. But for time in the video, I went ahead and punched it ahead of time. So I'm going to bring in my happy birthday stamp that's in this set, and I'm just going to tap some ink. One tip with the ink pad, sometimes if you're a beginner, you want to really press down, and you don't need to do that, you just need to tap, okay? And so I'm going to, and I know this is hard to see white on white, hopefully you can see it well enough, and then we're just going to stamp this in the middle, and hopefully I won't get my head under the camera as I'm stamping. And I do have my foam mat underneath this so that it will stamp. Whenever you're using the polymer stamps, you definitely want to have a foam mat underneath. And let me show you what I'm using. This is from the Stamparatus, and I just pulled it out of my Stamparatus and I put it underneath my scrap paper, and that's what I'm stamping on. You'll get a better stamped image with the polymer if you're using a mat underneath. You can use a piercing mat, any kind of foam mat. I have used, if you know the foam that's in that you can use in mailing envelopes, I've used that. But this works really great. If you have a Stamparatus, just pull out your mat and there you go. Okay, I'm going to, off camera real quick, clean that stamp because I need to take it off the block because I need the block. All right, so let's get to our white piece. Now, every one of these you do is going to be different because you're probably not going to place it in exactly the same way every time. So this one will probably definitely be different than my sample, but we're just going to work on it together, and I'm going to talk while I stamp, so hopefully it won't be boring as we stamp all these. This Pansy stamp set is really neat. It does all the work for you, and you can play around with colors and get some really neat effects. So this is what we're going to be doing. I do want to tell you that you're going to need some masks. Now this is the smaller size pansy that we're using, and we're just using the rounded leaf. I die cut these out of a Post-it note so that they're sticky. Another option would be use masking paper. If you have masking paper, you can always use that. If you don't have either one of those, what you can do is you can take a piece of copy paper, printer paper. You could even pull something out of your junk mail that you're just going to throw away. Punch it out of that, and then run a little bit of adhesive on the back, and then tap that on your clothing, and it'll remove a lot of the adhesive so it sticks just enough while you're doing your stamping, and then you can pull it up. That's a really inexpensive way. If you don't have, I have a whole bunch of Post-it notes, so that was easy for me. If you have masking paper, that's definitely a good option too. So we want to start with this first one in the corner down here, and let me show you how we're going to do that. So the first thing we need is the solid of the small pansy, and let me go ahead and get all my inks opened. I'm going to try to maneuver here so I can get as much on camera as I can. We're going to be using Daffodil Delight for our little center spot of our pansy, so we're going to need that. We're also going to be using Rich Razzleberry. We're going to be using Fresh Freesia. And we're also going to be using Soft Succulent. Fresh Freesia and Soft Succulent are both new in colors this year, and we're going to be using those. Now we're going to be also using a technique where we're stamping off, and so we're using a second generation stamp. And if you've not done that, it's really easy. You just stamp off, and then it makes it lighter when you stamp it the second time, okay? Now, I'm going to mix it up a little. When I did this sample, I left the white inside. I'm going to do it a little different because I think I've got an idea that I'm going to like this better. So with the Fresh Freesia, I'm going to go ahead and ink up the stamp, and I'm just going to stamp down in this corner. Just like that. Then I'm going to come in. There's a stamp that looks the same, except not all of it is, it's not solid. This is your second stamp that you need to go with this. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to ink up in the Rich Razzleberry, and if you get ink on your block, you definitely want to wipe that off, because a lot of times when you go to stamp, you'll get that on your paper. So just take a quick wipe off if you get some on there. And I'm going to stamp off once, and that I stamped in a bad place. I was half on, so I'm going to do it again. So I'm going to stamp off, and then I'm going to go right over the one that we already did. It's easy to line up, and I'm just going to stamp that down on there. So it's going to give us a darker, isn't that beautiful? I love how that looks. And then we're going to come in, this little piece here is going to help make our center, and it's also going to be in Rich Razzleberry, but we're not going to stamp off with this. We're just going to do it full strength to make it a little darker. And if you see this little part right here, right above that little triangle, that's what you want to line up with these two little parts right in the middle there. So we're just going to stamp that on there. See how that gives it a darker look? I love that look. And then we're going to come in with the Daffodil Delight, and we're going to stamp our center. And you will find you do not have to be perfect on all this, and it works really well. I'm going to scoot this up to make sure that I'm on camera. I want to make sure that I'm stamping on camera so that you can definitely see what I'm doing. Okay, now we're going to stamp some leaves around this first one. So I'm going to take a mask, and I have 2 of each. I went ahead and cut out 2 of the flower and 2 of the leaves And that worked perfect. I didn't need any more than that. So I'm just going to come and put this. And let me give you a little tip when you're masking. You want just a hint of whatever you're masking to show, and that'll give you a better image. And I'm going to actually move this over because I'm going to do 2 leaves on this one side. Right, like that. Okay. And then I'm going to come in with the solid leaf first, and we're going to use that soft succulent. And I'm just inking that up. Again, I have a little on the block, so I'm just going to wipe that off. And I want to stamp off. I'm going to do that again because I'm hitting right on the edge of that mat. I need to make sure I stamp off over here. Okay, and then I'm going to come down here and go like that. And then I'm going to come in with the definition leaf. This one has the defined part of the leaf. And I'm going to do that with soft succulent as well. But this time, I'm not going to stamp off. I'm just going to stamp full strength. And I'm going to come right back over top of that. And that gives us that nice little look there. And I'm going to leave this mask on. And I'm going to mask the leaf that we just stamped because I want to do another one right beside it. Again, leaving just a little bit of the green on the edge. And I'm going to come in with the solid leaf first. I'm going to stamp off. And that, you can always, if you don't think you stamped off evenly, you can always do it a second time. And I'm going to come right back in with this. And then I'll come in with the defined leaf. And I'm not stamping off with that. And I'm coming right back on there, like that. And I think I want to go one more. I'm going to remove this one because I don't need this one anymore. And I'm going to move this down slightly so I have a little more of the purple, just because it makes it look like it's supposed to be there better, okay? So I'm going to come in again with the solid leaf, and I'm going to stamp off. Again, I keep hitting the edge of that mat, okay? And I'm just going to stamp here. And then I'm going to come in with the solid. And I'm going to stamp right back down on there. Just like that, okay? Now I'm going to leave this on here, and now I need both of my leaf pieces, my masks. This is why I did 2 of each, because now I want to cover up both of these leaves. Because I want to do another flower right in there. So I'm going to come in with my solid flower, and that's the fresh freesia. And I'm just going to come in right like this. And then I'm going to come in with the defined pansy with the rich razzleberry. And I want to stamp off. And then I'm going to stamp right on there. Then I'm going to come back with the center, and this one I'm not going to stamp off. I'm going to do full strength. And that goes right there. And then I'm going to come in. Oh, my thing moved. But it's all right. It didn't hurt it too bad. Definitely want to pay attention to that when you're doing it, because if it moves, then you're going to be stamping on your previous image. So I'm going to get some of the Daffodil Delight, going to stamp that center. Just like that. Now we're ready to go on to the next flower or the next leaf. So I'm going to go ahead and do this another flower. And there's no right or wrong to this. You can do it however you want to do it. So I'm going to put this like this. Actually, I think I want to go just like that. Okay, so I'm going to come back in with my solid and my fresh freesia. And then I'm going to come in with my rich raspberry. I'm going to stamp off. Hit the edge of that mat again. I'm just going to have to start stamping in the same spot every time. And so then I'm going to come right in here. Just like that. Then I'm going to do the center. That's rich raspberry, the full strength. And then I'm going to come in again with the Daffodil Delight. Just like that. There we go. Now, I want to keep this one covered. And I want to cover this one that we just did because I'm going to do some leaves around it. Like that. So I'm going to start with the solid leaf image, and that's going to be in the soft succulent, and I'm going to stamp off, and then add my leaf, and then I'm going to do it again. You can add as many or as few leaves as you want. Oops, I'm going to stamp off. I almost did it, didn't I? So I'm going to stamp there. And I think I'm going to add one more. Right there. Okay, and I'm going to come in with the defined portion of the leaf using that soft succulent once again. Stamping there, and there, and there. Now you could do as much or as few flowers and leaves as you want to do. It can be as full or as sparing as you want to do. I'm going to put this on here. This leaf over here because I want to do a flower there going off the page. Just like that. So I'm going to come in with my flower. And I'm going to go right here. So part of it's going off the page, and that's okay. I'm going to come in with the defined part of the flower, and I'm going to stamp off, and I'm going to go right over that with that. Then we're going to do the little center. So we're just going to keep repeating the same process until we get this as full as we want it, okay? So then I'm going to come in with the little Daffodil Delight center. And that goes right in there. Okay. Pull these up. And you can see where it looks like that flower is behind that leaf. Okay. So let's see, where do we want to go next? Let's do another leaf coming out here. We're going to start with stamping off. Now I'm going to add the defined portion. Just like that. And we're ready to add another flower. So I'm going to use my leaf masks. You just keep turning it till you get it the right way. And I'm just going to keep using these same masks all throughout this. Now, if you wanted to do a whole bunch, you could use a different one every time. It's really not necessary. You can use the same ones over and over. Okay, so I'm going to do a flower right here. Now, see how that picked up? I want to make sure I put that back down before I stamp my next part, or it's going to come over on my leaf. Now, and if you see that they're getting to where they're not sticking, then that might be a good time to use another one. Okay, so I'm going to stamp off. I got a little bit of ink on that corner. So I'm going to stamp on there. I'm going to come in with the center. And it's just repeating and repeating and repeating the process till you get what you want. And then I'm going to come in with my Daffodil Delight. And there you have it. Okay. So I'm going to leave that leaf. I don't need that leaf. But I'm going to move this flower. And I'm going to move it up here. And I'm going to cover this other flower. Like that. Because I want to do a flower right in there. Again, it's just the same process that we've been doing. Stamping with the fresh freesia. And then coming in with the rich razzleberry. Stamping off. Stamping on there. Like that. And then we're going to do the center. Like that. And then we're going to come in with the Daffodil Delight. I've got some of that on the edge, so I want to make sure and wipe that off good so we don't get it where we don't want it. There. Okay, now I'm going to bring this up. I don't need this leaf on here. And I'm going to cover this flower. I want to do a couple more leaves. So I'm going to come in with my solid leaf first, and that's the soft succulent that we're going to stamp off. And then I'm going to put this one right there. I'm going to do another one right there. And then I'm going to come in with the defined image. and we can move this one. And I'm going to do another flower up here, so I'm going to need to cover my leaves again. And you can see it's just building your image one by one, kind of looking the look of. I guess my thought when I was doing this was flowers climbing on a trellis. That's started this card. So I'm going to put that down. Again, we're going to come in with our solid flower. And that leaf moved, so I'm just going to make sure and place it back before I stamp my next one. This is where we're doing the rich razzleberry on the definition. We're going to stamp off. And we're going to stamp that on there. And this doesn't really matter at this point because now we're going to do the little part on the center, and we don't need the mask for that. I'm just going to come in the center like that. And then the Daffodil Delight. And that goes right in the center. Okay. I'm going to leave that leaf where it is. I'm going to cover the flower. And I'm going to do a couple more leaves. So again, with my soft succulent, stamping off. And do another one. Stamp off. And I'm going to come in with the definition for the leaves. I'm going to stamp that. Stamp that. And then you can decide if that's full enough, if you want more, if you want less, and I think we're going to leave it with that. And I'm going to close up my ink pads. Because if I don't, I'll end up with ink all over my card. So I'm going to move this. I'm going to move this out of the way for a moment. We're done with the masks, so I'm going to move those. And just to make sure, the ink is dry there, but just because, I'm going to fold this in half and work on the other side. We're done with our mat. So let me bring in these labels. If you notice on the finished one, I have the black matting on the sides of the label. So here's how we're going to do this. Take your black label, and somewhere in the middle, this does not have to be a precision cut, this does not have to be measured, just somewhere in the middle, just cut it in half. Okay? And then on the back of our white piece, we want to come in with the Stampin' Seal, and we just want to put some adhesive on that. And we're just going to attach this so that the black is matting it. And you can come in as much as you want, or you can make it as close as you want, depending on how much you want it to matte. What I try to do, if you keep these straight parts on there, it'll look better. So I'm just going to put that like that, just like that. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Trying to make them even, so you want to notice how much you have on this side, and you want to try to do the same thing on this side. And there, your piece looks matted. It looks like you did something fancy and it was all the same punch. You just punched two of the same thing. So let me bring my card base in here and let's put it together. We're ready to put this thing together. All right, so let's start by putting adhesive on our stamped piece. And I'm just going to I'm going to move that so I don't accidentally get adhesive on it. That wouldn't be good. All the way around. And this is just a very narrow border. The black is just a very narrow border. And sometimes it's easier to go on the long side to get the long side straight. So I'm going to just put this on here. And then we're going to put adhesive on the back of the black piece. And I'm just using the regular Stampin' Seal. I'm not using the plus because this isn't a heavy duty project, so we're just using the regular. And this one has a little bit bigger of a border, so you want to keep that in mind as you're putting it on here. Just like that. And then we're going to use some dimensionals. So I'm going to bring my dimensionals and my Take Your Pick tool. And we're going to put these on the back of our label. This is a really fun set to play with. If you have it, you can try all different color combinations of the pansies and really make it come alive depending on what you're looking for, what color that you choose to use. It's going to look different every time. Got one more. Okay, now as I'm putting this on, I want to show you something that you probably already noticed. So right in here, I have more space than what I would have liked between my leaf and my flower. That's a really good place to put my label because then no one will ever see that. So I'm going to make sure, now you can center this, you can put it off to the side. I put it off to the side a little bit because I wanted my flowers to show. All that stamping work, I want it to show. So I'm just putting that there. And then I'm coming in with these purple gems. And I'm using the, there's a pink, there's then the next shade purple and a really light purple and a dark purple. I'm using this second one next to the pink. And I'm just putting 3 of those on here. So we'll put one there. And we'll put one here. And then we'll put the last one up here. Okay, then we're ready to fold the card. Don't forget to add to the inside. Whenever I'm using color cardstock, I always put a white piece on the inside, and then I stamp it with something that coordinates with the front. That way I can write on the white rather than writing on the colored, and I think that works better. But there you have it. There's our card. Play around with it. Try different color combinations and compare them and see what you really like. A lot of fun to do. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope that you will join my Facebook group by the same name, Karen's Cards and More. Check out my YouTube channel. If you don't have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I'd be glad to help you with that. You can check out my online store at karensmith.stampinup.net, and I will craft with you again next Monday night.